welcome to Just Energy Radio with your host, naturopath and medical intuitive, Dr. Rita Louise. We have learned from Einstein's theory that matter and energy are one. Physicists believe that all systems in nature have their own particular way of vibrating, from the swinging of a pendulum to the waves of the ocean to the light that brightens the sky each day. Each of these oscillates at its own unique rate. The same holds true for every thought, feeling, event, or word we speak. Each has its own frequency or rate of vibration. What many of us don't realize is when we take everything in our universe down to its simplest form, it is all just energy. Join Dr. Rita Louise on a journey through time and space where past, present, and future collide. Today, what you believe may be called into question. What we want to know is, who made up the rules? Be brave and step outside the box. We are about to turn our world upside down and venture into the unknown. Hold on. We are departing our own beliefs and entering alternative realms. Enjoy the possibilities.
Hello and welcome to Just Energy Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for tuning into the show today. Man, today we are talking about health and food and diet and addictions and all that good stuff that we like to put in our mouth. And to do that, we're going to be speaking in the first hour with Chef Del Sroufe about simply healthy, delicious, whole food, plant-based eating. And in the second hour, we're going to be speaking with Josh Lajani about weight loss, dealing with food addictions. Just Energy Radio is brought to you by soulhealer.com, where you can find out about all the products and services I offer, including medical intuition evaluations, energy healings, and psychic readings. You know, as things go on in our lives, often we need somebody to kind of look at what's going on and give us an outside perspective. Perhaps there's a direction you've been wanting to head. Maybe there's something going on at work that you really don't understand, some conflict with a coworker or your boss. Or maybe there's some health issues that you've gone to the doctor and they just really can't help you with. Give me a call, send me an email, and we can set up a time for a private consultation where we can get your life moving forward again. It's also brought to you by the Institute of Applied Energetics. That's www.appliedenergeticsinstitute.com, where you can jumpstart your intuition today by downloading their 50-page guide. Just think about it. If you've been working in a dead-end career and want to work into the healthcare field, working as an energy medicine practitioner, intuitive counselor, or medical intuitive, just think about it. You could be my competition. Okay, there really wouldn't be competition, but you'd be my competition, but not really. But anyway, but you can start that moving in that direction. www.appliedenergeticsinstitute.com. Before we bring Chef Del on, I just wanted to take a moment to talk about our health and our diet. You know, in the 21st century, or actually I'm going to start somewhere else. You know, I remember growing up and my mom always cooked food for dinner. Now, thankfully she's not listening. But she knows this part. She really wasn't a very good cook. And some of the things that she would make we still talk about today and laugh because, They were pretty horrendous in the big picture of, you know, when you think someone's cooking dinner. But anyway, but it was always a home-cooked meal. I mean, not to say that we didn't have pizza or a TV dinner or a pot pie because there really wasn't all that much stuff out there and available, you know, McDonald's every so often. But it wasn't the focus of our meals. It wasn't the focus of our diet. But today it's really changed, and what we're eating, you know, the amount of junk food that we're consuming or pre-processed, pre-packaged food is growing more and more every day. And I find it saddening to go into the supermarket only to find that the area that has fruits and vegetables getting smaller and smaller, and the area that has packaged fruits and vegetables, but you really, it's a fruit and a vegetable. Usually it's vegetables. Well, no, fruit too. But you don't know what the preservatives they've stuck on it. Or it's encroached by some other pre-processed cream, gunk, sugar thing that you might want to put on your fruit. It's disgusting. It just saddens me that the availability of fruits and vegetables are getting smaller and smaller. But over the last, I'm going to say 6 months or so, I've been engaging on transitioning. I'm going to use that word, transitioning to a vegan diet, which means no meat. I mean, it's like vegetarian, except no eggs, no cheese, no animal products at all. And, and just kind of learning about it, reading up about it. And not that I've had any of these issues, but I have heard miracle stories from people that have had diabetes and high blood pressure and all kinds of different illnesses or issues of their bodies. And by going on one of these plans, they have gotten rid of their health concern. I mean, the big ones have been diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, with people getting off the bulk of their medications within 4 to 6 months. Can you believe that? 4 to 6 months of eating clean. I find that really hard to believe, but the testimony is there. With people actually having that happen to them and for them, and losing weight, losing massive amounts of weight. And so I'm hoping that by sharing some of this information with you, the listeners, that you will be able to move forward with this in your own life. Okay. He's on. Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about Chef Del, and we will get him on the air. Okay, but I know I'm not saying his last name right, so I'm sure he'll correct me. Chef Del Sroufe, passion for cooking began at 8 years old and never faded. Sroufe opened Del's Bread, a vegan bakery, before beginning vegan meal delivery service in 2001, serving eclectic plant-based cuisine to Columbus residents. In 2006, Sroufe joined Wellness Forum Foods as co-owner and chef. Sroufe also joined the Wellness Forum as a member, where after a lifetime of yo-yo dieting, he has lost over 200 pounds on a low-fat, plant-based diet. He continues to teach cooking classes at local venues like Whole Foods Community Recreation Center and the Wellness Forum. Sroufe is also the author of Better Than Vegan and the bestseller Forks Over Knives, the cookbook. We're going to be talking with him today and about his new book, The China Study Quick and Easy Cookbook. And I'm going to repeat that because there's more than one. There is the China Study Cookbooks, but this is the Quick and Easy, because we like quick and easy cookbook. So please welcome to the show, Chef Del Sroufe. Hey, Chef, how are you? Hey, you know what? Even though you don't think that you know me.
Uh-oh.
You do.
I do?
You do. Because I'm going to share one little teeny story.
Oh, no.
And you're going to be like, I know you.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, it's not a bad story.
Oh, okay.
No, it's a good story.
Okay,
So you were getting ready to do your cooking class at Health Fest 2015 in Marshall, Texas, and I was sitting next to you talking about eating peanut butter off of a spoon.
Oh, my God. Hi.
It's me.
Hi.
Hey.
How are you?
I am great. How are you?
I'm better now.
Well, okay. I am just so excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here, too. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Well, at that thing, your publishers were there talking to people, blah, blah, blah. And they said, oh, yeah, Chef Del has a cookbook coming out. And I booked you on the spot.
Oh, cool.
So, you've been like in the back burner for a long time. But anyway, all right, let's get a little serious here. Chef.
Exciting.
Okay. Hey, what got you into cooking in the first place? I mean, it sounds like you started at 8 years old cooking. So what's that all about?
I think it was divorced parents. My parents got divorced when I was 7, and my dad had to learn how to cook. And on the weekends, I spent my weekends with him, and I would go into the kitchen and help him, and he would let me help him cook all the recipes from the Bisquick box and from the shake and bake for pork and chicken box, and that kind of started it all.
What made you change over from eating shake and bake and Bisquick, which, does sound kind of good right now. Not that I would eat it, but although, I got this biscuit thing. I have to tell you, I do have a biscuit thing.
We all have a thing.
Yeah, I know. To eating, whole food, plant-based.
Well, it was a long, slow journey. I was in college at Ohio State University studying business and hating it. And I decided that I was going to probably drop out of school and I needed to get some management experience so I could get a higher paying job. And a friend of mine was working at this vegetarian restaurant called King Avenue Coffee House. And he was looking for an assistant manager and offered me a job, and I took it. And I wasn't vegetarian or vegan when I went there. But after 8.5 years of being there and immersing myself in that food and in that culture and learning why people were vegetarian and vegan, it took a hold of me. And when I opened my first business, which is a vegan bakery, I had gone vegan.
And see, I'd never even heard of like vegan bakery, vegan. I mean, I have to tell you, going to that Health Fest was pretty eye-opening to me. Not that I haven't been a vegetarian on and off through my life, but I mean, how do you make like vegan cookies or vegan brownies or muffins?
Yeah, making vegan cookies and brownies and muffins is the easy part. Making them healthier is more of a challenge. So, part of my story is I went vegan and gained a whole lot of weight after I did so. And it was because I was eating baked goods that were full of white flour, sugar, oil, and other high-fat and processed ingredients. So those same processed ingredients will give you very similar results, vegan or not, but they'll give you similar results in your health, too.
Well, and there's a lot of people that... Okay, so this still stays in my mind. I was in college and was eating I was in college, so I had no money. So I was eating pretty much vegetarian because that's what you could afford. Macaroni and cheese with vegetables chopped up in it. And and a friend of mine, she was younger than me, much younger than me. They were my neighbors, and so I was always over at their house. And she was like, oh, yeah, I'm vegetarian. And she ate like an entire box of Lorna Doones. And she's like, well, they're vegetarian. And I'm like, well, I don't think that's really healthy. And I guess that is possible with any kind of lifestyle, that you can eat in that style, but not necessarily eat healthy.
Yeah, there are a lot of overweight, unhealthy vegans and vegetarians out there. And part of the problem is that, the vegan culture and community is marketed to by unhealthy food industries in the same way that the mainstream population is marketed to. So you can buy almost anything vegan that you could buy not vegan, and it can be almost as unhealthy.
Well, I have to tell you that some of that I don't get. Like I've had this stuff, they were like, oh, it's vegan beanie weenies, and it was like, and it had these vegan hot dog things in it. They were disgusting. I'm sorry.
Well, but the thing, and there's a lot.
It's like I'm not that desperate to eat a hot dog.
There's some pretty bad stuff out there. It's actually gotten better. There's some really good, almost gourmet or artisan versions of some foods out there now. So they're getting better at it because I think the American palate has leaned more towards foodie, and and more away from junk food and junk eaters. So they've got to appeal to that palate, and that's what they're trying to do.
Right. And I get that. And I guess the point I'm making is one of my big things is processed foods. You know, I don't like buying canned foods. I don't like processed foods. So why would I eat a vegan processed food when I can make it from scratch, or just not even eat it at all because it's not that important?
Right. But there are plenty of junk food eaters who become junk food vegans.
I'll bet.
So someone like me who I was baking before I became vegan, I was baking, gourmet cakes and scones with butter and buttermilk and all of that. And when I started doing it vegan, I was replicating what I knew from before I was vegan.
I bet it was fun living at your house.
Well, it's funny that you talk about you were eating mac and cheese. There was a period of time before I went to work at King Avenue where, and when I was in college, I was eating lentils and rice and adding potatoes and carrots to it. But I was also, when I could afford it, was deep frying chicken wings and having buffalo wings back in the day. So I went both extremes, I think.
Uh-huh. Well, I mean, we just had the macaroni and cheese because, they were, I totally date myself here. You could get them for $1.
Oh, yeah.
And, we were very poor college students.
Yeah.
And but you could go down to the local farmer's market and come home with 2 grocery bags of vegetables for $10.
Yeah. Didn't know about the farmer's market back then.
Well, we just knew about it because you could come home with 2 bags of vegetables for $10. But so let's talk about, you said that you've transitioned, and before you came on air, I was talking about, my transition from eating meat, and it's still not complete, but to eating whole food plant-based. And people complain that eating healthy is hard, and that you have to cook your food. and I mean, do you have any guidance? I mean, I don't think that it's hard, but do you have any guidance for people that think that?
Yeah, and this is a lot of what my new cookbook is about, is making this quick and easy. And so I have several tips that I give to people, and one of them is it's called Cook Once and Eat All Week. And so if you're willing to dirty that kitchen once a week and spend 3 or 4 hours in it, you can have food for the entire week. And you do it by using recipes that are not complicated. So if you look at my recipes, there aren't long lists of ingredients. There aren't long lists of instructions. Most of the recipes come together in 30 minutes or less, some of them in less than 15 minutes, and they taste good. So the people are going to be far more willing to, I think, pursue them if they taste good. That's the important factor.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the part I'm excited about, because go ahead. I
was just going to say, having a plan is key. If you come home every day and don't know what you're going to eat and don't know what you're going to cook, then you're going to spend 30 or 40 minutes getting ready to make that happen before you ever find out that you've got to go to the grocery store to do the rest of it. So I give you 3 menu plans in this book. You take those. I give you shopping lists and a pantry list so you know what's supposed to be on hand already. And you go to the store. You only have to go to the store once. All of these ingredients are available at mainstream grocery stores so that you're not trouncing all over town to find bizarre ingredients. And I think it really makes it easier for people.
Well, and I think that planning part is really the key to doing the whole thing. Before I started, I mean, I've always tried to eat healthy, even if my idea of healthy wasn't this. And one of the things that I would do, and I don't want you to laugh, but I kind of did the same thing. Sunday was my cooking day, and I would cook like 3 or 4 different things. I would make a bunch of chicken and make it into 3 or 4 different ways. And then I'd bag it up and I'd put it in the freezer.
Yep.
And I would have, but after a while, I had this inventory. And so, so I might have meatloaf that's 3 weeks old that's in the freezer, but I'm not eating meatloaf every day. And so I actually had like 4 or 5 different things that I could eat during the week and not have to duplicate because I ran out of stuff.
Yeah, I talk about that in the introduction to this book because my mother did something very similar when we were kids. She didn't put much in the freezer, but she would take like a turkey and roast a turkey on Sunday or Monday. Then we would have turkey with maybe mashed potatoes and gravy on Monday. Tuesday, she would make turkey tetrazzini, and then the leftover turkey would either go into a soup or we would have sandwiches with it. So it wasn't like we were eating the same dish, but we were kind of eating the same food. So I kind of learned from her. And she did the same thing with meatloaf. She'd make a double batch of meatloaf, and part of it would become meatballs so that we had spaghetti and meatballs. And the other half would become meatloaf with mashed potatoes and gravy. And then leftovers would become meatloaf sandwiches that I would take to school.
And so can you kind of use that mentality in working with your diet and nutrition and with the recipes that you provide in your new cookbook, the China Study Quick and Easy cookbook?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and here's how I do it. I'm all about flavor and making food taste good, but I give you some basics to work with. So for one of my favorite recipes of the cookbook is my date and soy stir-fry sauce. So it's got dates instead of sugar, soy sauce, ginger, and garlic. Puree that, and it's done, right? You can stick that in the refrigerator and have it all week. Then you do something like you cook up a big batch of brown rice, and if you have frozen vegetables on hand, then you've got a stir-fry, right? So you can chop up an onion, stir-fry the frozen vegetables, add the brown rice and some stir-fry sauce, and dinner's ready to go in probably less than 15 minutes.
Well, that's really easy, and stir-fry is always freaking good.
Always freaking good and always healthy. I mean, we're doing oil-free, low-fat stir-fry. You can decide how much of the sauce you want to use or how little you want to use if you're on a low-sodium diet. So, and you can't go wrong with vegetables, whether they're fresh or frozen.
And the brown rice, do you just make like a big pot of brown rice and kind of eat on it during the week? Or what do you do with that? I always have a big pot of brown rice on hand. A couple of things I do with it. I make it from my stir fries. I take leftover stir fries since I live alone and throw them in a wrap with some hummus and rice. I'll take rice and make a stovetop rice pudding. Throw it with some almond milk, a little bit of date puree, or a little bit of maple syrup and some dried fruit. It doesn't take any time once you have that rice cooked, right? So making me hungry.
I'm the guy that will also eat just a bowl of brown rice sometimes when I just want something. So, it's having those kinds of things available, having lots of salads chopped and ready to go, whether you buy pre-chopped salad mixes or do your own, having canned beans and ingredients like that. There's a lot of things that you can do with a can of beans without a lot of effort. Exactly.
And and one of the things that I'm trying to do, with my show and with everything else, it's kind of demystify this whole cooking thing, and food thing, because people think it's going to taste bad. If I eat healthy, it's going to taste like my lawn, or it's going to taste like a stick. Is that your experience? Like when you transitioned, was that your experience, or was it not really hard for you?
I was really lucky. I have 2 of my lifelong friends. I've known them for 33, 34 years now, or the first vegetarians I ever met. They're 10 years older than I am, but they've been vegetarian since 1969. And so I was we would go out. They were in a band at the time, and I'd go over to their house, and she would cook these fabulous vegetarian meals at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I knew back then that vegetarian tasted good. Right? I knew then that it wasn't going to be about tree bark for me. So I kind of had a lucky head start. And then when I went to work for King Avenue, I'd actually been going to King Avenue as a customer before I ate there. Now, And I admit, when I was first there, it was lots of cheese and dairy and things like that. And we slowly transitioned it to there was more vegan-friendly options on that menu. But we always were about the taste.
And I think that's the most important part. You know, we've been working on this transition. I mean, I don't do cheap milk at all because it hates me. And so that was easy. And I thought it would be harder. I mean, not that I haven't not eaten meat before, but for some reason this time I just thought it would be harder. And we don't really miss it. Not at all.
No.
You know, it's just like you just eat different things. You just make different choices.
Right. And, I've learned that the longer you go without eating a certain food, the less that you miss it or think about it. So I don't crave ice cream. I don't crave a lot of the foods that I used to eat. I do have a few unhealthy vegan treats.
Oh, yeah, like what? Come on, dish. Uh-oh. Did we lose?
I have to limit, like potato chips.
Oh, yeah, I guess they are vegan.
I love potato chips. And I'll get a 1 ounce bag of chips at the store every now and then, but I don't sit and have the 1 pound bag in my house because I'm going to be in trouble. I'll eat them that's part of setting up your healthy lifestyle and setting up a healthy life is making sure that you have healthy foods as available as the unhealthy ones used to be, so that you're more likely to make healthier choices. And we find that's true with kids too. When you put kids in a kitchen and you give them choices between fruits and cookies and chocolate, yeah, sometimes you're going to choose the chocolate, but sometimes you're going to choose the fruit.
Sometimes.
Am I still making you hungry?
Yeah, you are. Don't worry, I'll go down and have a snack when we're done. I have
it's better than never.
I have two stepkids, and when I moved in with them and their dad, because their dad had custody, they lived on like hot dogs and ramen noodles and chips. And he was from a ranching family, so a lot of meat. And so I would make like pot stickers and like this really cool stuff, and they hated it. They just hated it. So I stopped making it and would make things that were more toward their palate. But I also cut out the chips, and we cut out the hot dogs, except for like 4th of July. Yeah. And cut out the ramen noodle and started giving them, like banana walnut muffins for their lunch snack with a banana or maybe a yogurt. I mean, definitely better choices for them. And many years later, I made some of the things that they hated.
Yeah.
They were like, how come you never made this before? Like, well, I did. I go, I don't make things that taste bad. You just have bad taste.
Right.
But their palates changed. And,
right.
And so I feel like I won.
Yeah. Well, that's not, a lot of parents.
I have a question for you. You worked in a bakery. Okay. You like your baked stuff. I mean, what about carbs? There's so much controversy. You have it's got to be all protein people. And then you look through a lot of cookbooks, especially stuff that's on the newsstands. There's a lot of pastas and breads, like sandwich type breads or wraps. Where do you fall in on the whole carb thing? I mean, especially when it comes into dealing with weight loss.
I fall right in with the science, and the science is clear. And by the way, you're going to start seeing a lot more of the science refuting things like this no-carb diet, the paleo diet. The simple fact is that our body depends on carbohydrates for almost every function, especially brain function. So if you follow the science, and you can look at the studies like the China study, and you can look at other research on human nutrition, and carbs are an essential part of it. But there's a big difference between unprocessed carbs that you find in beans and legumes and potatoes and corn and rice and green vegetables, etc. And the carbs that you find in white flour, right? Or carbs that have been deep fried, like potato chips. So we've got to get rid of, what we teach people to do at the Wellness Forum, we teach people how to read the science and look at the research and know when they're being BS, because it happens a lot. And then the science is pretty clear. There's, the good carb diet. When you look at the China study, it's the largest study of human nutrition ever done, looking at the diet of 800 million people. It's a carb-based diet. These people get an overwhelming percentage of their calories from complex carbohydrates like beans, grains, and potatoes.
And so
the longest living people on the planet eat a mostly carb-based diet.
And that would include rice. And that would include...
It includes brown rice, sometimes white rice, but mostly brown rice, millet, corn, wheat. It's this processed foods diet. It's white sugar is the enemy. Processed sugars are the enemy. Oil is the enemy. When you take the fiber out of any food, when you do that with any food, and you separate it from its origin and make it less than what it's less than what it was. So they take oil. We talk about olive oil being this healthy food, but when they extract olive oil from the olives, they throw away 95% or more of the original nutrition from that food, and all that's left is the fat. Vitamin E back into the oil to call it a healthy food.
No way.
No way. Yes way.
No way.
Way.
Oh, man. Well, that's because Lucky Charms are part of a balanced breakfast. Come on.
Well, yeah, but there's the same story there. A high sugar diet, right? It's all fortified. And there's a reason they do it. It's profit. We fortify cereals because we've stripped them of their nutrition. Why? Because it gives them a longer shelf life. Because whole grains don't hold up as well on the store shelf as denatured grains. So then to call it healthy, we add vitamins back in. And we assume we're as good as nature at doing so, and we're not.
Well, and then when they use that fortification, whatever that is, you don't really know what it is. It has calcium. It's like, well, what kind of calcium?
Right. And we now know that calcium from cow's milk is not an effective way to get calcium, and it's also a dangerous way to get calcium because of the acid load that drinking milk puts on the body, which causes the body to suck out calcium from our bones to create a pH balance in our body.
But why do they have all of those commercials about, drink milk and
to sell you milk? Because the farming industry and the dairy lobbies are some of the biggest in the country. And if you ever get to go to, Dr. Popper, my business partner, has been there twice, to the USDA hearings they do every 5 years. The USDA has hearings to determine the nutritional guidelines for Americans. This is the USDA was started by Abraham Lincoln, and it's been a farmers' lobby since its inception, but it's also giving out nutritional advice. And do you see the conflict of interest there?
Yeah.
How can you try and grow the business for your farmers and then tell Americans that dairy and beef is not healthy to eat? You can't.
Well, we're having a run on green beans. We're going to say green beans are the greatest. That's scary.
I laugh at Facebook all the time because you see all of these questions about, like, where do you get your protein? And the car. Have you seen any of these cartoons? There's a gorilla sitting there, and then somebody's asking, well, where do you get your protein? And the gorilla's a grass eater, right? So all of the strongest animals on the planet are all vegetarians. It's just, that's the truth of it.
One of the things that I really liked about your book was the fact that it seemed like what my observation just going through it was that it looked like you had a base of ingredients. Like you had built up a pantry of chickpeas and cannoli beans and cauliflower, even if it was frozen cauliflower, and silken tofu. There were core foods that it seemed like were used, I don't want to say over and over again, but kind of a lot, in a lot of different ways to make these meals. Was that intentional on your part?
It is in part intentional, and it's in part the way that my own pantry is stocked. So people are always asking me about the newest this ingredient. Have you had this, or have you had this? Have you ever had yucca root? And I'm a kind of really basic kind of eater. So I eat black beans and lentils and chickpeas and cannellini beans. I use silken tofu for a lot of sauces, or I have traditionally. I use cauliflower a lot to make sauces. So I keep those things on hand. If you look in my freezer, you'll see broccoli, you'll see corn, you'll see spinach, you'll see edamame. In my pantry, there's onions and carrots and celery. So I tend to do a lot with the same things. And then seasonally, I'll go out and find, like, asparagus is fresh at the farmer's market in the spring. Kale is fresh later in the summer. Swiss chard, middle of the summer. Right now, I'm eating peaches because they're ripe in Ohio. And so that's how I add to that basic thing going on in my pantry. You don't have to have a huge pantry to eat healthy or to do this correctly.
Okay, so now I just have a personal question, because you brought up making the sauces with cauliflower and or the silken tofu. Which do you like better? I mean, because I haven't really experimented with them, because I have this fear that they're going to come out like paste. So which one is going to give you the more lighter, creamier consistency that you would want?
I tell you what, they both have their place. I don't eat a lot of soy. I'm mildly sensitive to it. I'm one of the few people on the planet that actually is. And so I started making my mayonnaise and my sauces from pureed cauliflower. I learned that trick because of a cauliflower soup that I used to make that was really creamy when you pureed the cauliflower. It also has a really intense flavor. So I like that silken tofu is great when you want to make like a quick chocolate pudding or dessert sauces. But the cauliflower, it really is amazing. You cook your cauliflower until it's really tender. You puree it in the blender with just enough liquid to get it creamy. And you can get it to the consistency of mayonnaise or to a nice cream sauce or to a vegan sour cream. And then you can season it any way you want. The silken tofu might be a little more neutral in flavor. But for the savory sauces, the cauliflower gives you this really nice foundation of flavor.
Okay.
I like them both.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna have to do it.
I really think if you try the cauliflower, people who try that recipe are like, oh my God, what just happened? It's like a transformational shift in the universal vortex, because it's really that good.
Well, people laugh at me because I have this cauliflower thing, and I love having cauliflower mash. I love it. Yeah. I love it. Yeah, and it's just like, what do you have for dinner? Cauliflower mash. Leave me alone. I got my bowl. Sometimes I'll put like a little sauce, something on it, but not usually.
Yeah. For me, it's cauliflower and Brussels sprouts. I love Brussels sprouts, and I'll eat those every day with some brown rice.
Okay, talked about that. One of the things that you mentioned earlier was about the majority of the things in your cookbook, people can find anywhere. And actually, in going through the recipe, there was only one thing that I am not sure I will be able to find locally, but it's a canned thing.
What is it?
The thing with the peppers, with the
chilies and adobo sauce?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, every Kroger I've been to has them. Right
Well, see,
there
I
in the
haven't ever
Mexican
looked
section.
for it. I haven't ever looked
Yeah.
for it. So
It's a small can, so you could go pass right by it. But chilies and adobo you'll find in almost every Kroger in the country, number one grocer and store in the country. So it's pretty pervasive. Now, where do you live? What part of the country are you in?
I live in Marshall.
Oh, well then, yeah. Well, Marshall.
See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying?
Marshall might be the exception. Because I have had to go shopping in Marshall and have had to make a few changes in a few ingredients. But you're a small town. But I'm going to give myself an A if that's the only thing that you can't find. I
No,
still give an A.
and going through it,
And-
that was the only thing. And I'm like, but you know what? I'm sure that's a canned or bottled preserved thing that if I am really lazy, I can just get on Amazon or something.
Well, and I was going to say, I have an Amazon Prime membership. If you live somewhere in the country like Marshall, and I said this at my presentation at Health Fest, if you live in someplace like Marshall, you need to be an Amazon Prime member because almost anything you want, you can buy on Amazon, and the shipping's free.
That's right.
And you can sometimes find lower prices on Amazon than you'll find in the grocery store. Now, I'm a big believer in shopping locally. I shop my food co-op first. I believe in that firmly. But I also want what I want. So when I can't find my adobo sauce at Kroger, I'm going to go to Amazon and get me 6 cans shipped.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of it too. One of the things that I've been really enjoying about my personal transformation is finding new recipes. Or, we have, all right, we have this wannabe vegetable garden that's kind of from the heat. And we have these great expectations, and I'm going to have like 500 pounds of zucchinis and tomato mountains, and I've gotten 1 tomato. I actually did get 4 zucchini before they all died.
It's been a rough year.
It's pretty pathetic.
Yeah,
but anyway,
it's been a rough year.
And I was going to say something. I don't know. Never mind. I totally forgot.
Well, my gardens, we've had a rough time in our garden this year, too. We're just starting to get tomatoes, and a lot of other things just aren't going to make it. But we had so much rain, and it's been cold here. We've had a really cool summer, so it's been kind of a rough summer for all of that stuff. But that's why I trust my farmers market. My local farmers, man, they'll figure out a way to make something grow, so I can find something to eat when I go there.
Mm-hmm. So I want to go back to my freezer comment. So because you said that, in the cookbook, you say the sauces will last about a week in the refrigerator. Can I make some of this food and freeze it up, like these sauces in particular, and like freeze them up in my little ice cube trays and save them for later?
Yeah, the sauces all freeze really well. So the only thing you want to do is when you thaw them, you want to whisk them to bring them back to shape really quickly. But yeah, the sauces all freeze well.
Cool. And for the listeners, okay, so I went through this cookbook because I saved it so I could be surprised and not have food spilled all over it before I talk to you today. Because that's how I cook. It's very messy. Right. And the sauces, you think sauce, you think, oh my God, this is going to be so fattening and awful. But the sauces look amazing, and they seem like they just add accent to the meals or take it to the next level. So you're not eating, just potatoes. You're eating potatoes with a cauliflower cream sauce, which sounds really good. I already have things bookmarked in here.
Yeah. Well, I always say to people who aren't really into the whole cooking thing, but want to seem like they are, you need to come up with 3 or 4 good sauces, because if you have a good sauce, there's a whole lot of things that you can do, and sauces really bring things together. So you can have brown rice and steamed vegetables, but when you have brown rice and steamed vegetables with an almond sauce, man, people are going to talk about you like you know what you're doing.
But But it also seems like if you, because I'm Miss Freezer Queen, if you've made your almond sauce, but you also have a red pepper sauce and maybe some kind of spicy Asian sauce, you could have virtually 3 kind of different meals, all with the same brown rice and vegetables.
Yeah. And that's exactly the point. I mean, you can take the same ingredients. Like, you can take the same vegetables and brown rice and change the sauce and have different things going on. And that's how I like to teach my cooking classes. It's like I was showing a class just last night, this combination of vegetables. And if you put my almond sauce with it, you had like a Buddha's bowl. But if you put a vinaigrette with it, you had a salad. And it's funny to watch the light bulb go off in people's eyes because it's like, oh. And that's kind of how you get versatility and you get interesting variation in your eating. It's totally how I do it.
But what if you're a cook like me and I get people give me bad time. I kind of read the instructions. And sometimes I even have almost everything on the list in my house.
Yeah.
And... But, as I say on this show, I'm dyslexic enough that I forget stuff, or I look at the picture and I go, well, I don't know, this sounds better. And I like throw in my own crap.
What you're asking me, what do I do with you? Nothing.
I mean...
I'm a similar kind of cook. I've never been a recipe follower, and I think that's also kind of cool. Like I never really thought that when I was writing a cookbook or a recipe that people were going to do it my way anyway, because I always took recipes and did them my way. I assume that's what everybody did. The only time I don't do that is with baked goods. Well, to some extent, there's only so many ways you can change a scone around and still have it be a scone, right? There's a certain part of the structure that has to be maintained so that you can call it a scone. But whether it's blueberry or cranberry or chocolate chip or what, that's the variable part of it. All recipes in a way are like that. You change the sauce out, you change the herbs out or the spices out, and you've got different dishes.
Well, yeah, somebody said that. It's like, when you bake, you actually have to follow the recipe. And I'm like, that's why my baking doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, we say that there are 2 kinds of cooks in the world. There are cooks and there are bakers. I happen to be both, and maybe that's my own little oddity, but it's kind of true because I can follow the recipe for baked goods. I learned how to do that, but everything else, I think the rules are open for bending. And my students get mad at me in my cooking classes all the time because they're wanting me to make it like the recipe says so they can taste it like that. And I'm like, no, come on, let's have fun. I usually get my way, by the way.
Well, I know we have our vegan potluck here, and you're supposed to write the recipe down, or at least the ingredients, but they're like, but if you could put the recipe, or make copies or whatever, and I'm like, what recipe? It's like, right. Well, It's got this in, and they're like, well, how much of that? It's like, I don't know, till it seemed like it was enough.
I can understand for the beginning cook that person who's just starting out needs to see a recipe to make that work. But I think I've been cooking since I was 8. So if you give me a list of ingredients, I'll figure out something to do with it.
Well, and I think one of the reasons why we've been getting cookbooks is because we're bringing in a different food palette, a different spice palette, a different pantry than we've ever really been exposed to, in this way, especially working with the beans and, getting rid of the butter and getting rid of stuff. It's like, okay, so what do you do? How do you have a sauce? How do you, I was like, I like cream of mushroom soup. I can do a lot with cream of mushroom soup. But not anymore, even though I think it is vegan.
Well, you can certainly make your own cream of mushroom soup and have a pretty good dish.
Well, I haven't got that far, but I'm sure you can. But
you can, I promise.
But I'm just saying that I think cream of mushroom soup is vegan because I know there's no milk in it because I wouldn't eat it if there was. But, it's just jam-packed with chemicals. It's a little can of chemicals. So.
Yeah, I know.
But it does taste good. It tastes good.
I know. I've never had cream of... well, you know what? I've never really had... excuse me, thought that I had cream of mushroom soup until one year. I've never liked green bean casserole, and I made a version of it one year, a vegan version of it, and I was amazed at how good green bean casserole was.
I know, isn't that weird? And it just, yeah, I'm hearing you.
And it's freaking cream of mushroom soup.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I would use it for beef stroganoff, or for potatoes au gratin or whatever it is with the kind of white sauce because I don't do dairy. So that was my go-to cream sauce stuff, and we're not doing that anymore. So it's like, wait, but I want my cream stuff on my noodles. Here, that was Chef Del Sroufe. His book is The China Study, Quick and Easy Cookbook. Again, it is The China Study, Quick and Easy Cookbook. And his website is www.chefdelsroufe, I can't say it, .com.
Just Energy Radio with your host, Dr. Rita Louise, will return right after these messages.